In this video, we are going to talk about winding and installing your bobbin in your manual or digital sewing machine. If you're watching this video, it's likely that you attended one of our socials on sewing basics. This is video 2 in a 2-part video series. The first video was learning how to thread your machine. In the first video, we talked about the components on your machine, the threading components. We're going to use some of the same components here for winding your bobbin, just fewer steps. So locate your peg again. In this case, we're going to use this peg that goes vertically. In that machine, it will be the horizontal peg. Same thing with this machine here. You are going to be using the plate that goes on the front of the thread to hold your thread in place on the peg. Unwind a bit of your thread and find your stability peg. Again, in this case, your stability peg is going to be located closest to wherever your thread is. So it will be this peg right here. Now that we're here, we're going to find the next mechanism. It usually looks like a screw or a hook, and in this case, it's the screw. Same thing on this machine here. Ignore this piece here. You want to go straight from your stability peg to the mechanism. It needs to come around the corner to create tension, and that's why there's a screw here. Please, whatever you do, do not use a screwdriver to this piece. That is usually left best to a mechanic unless you really know what you're doing with machine tension. That when you start messing around with components that require tools to dismantle, you are starting to get into timing and some other things that we shouldn't be tinkering around with as beginner sewists. All right, so we're going to come around here. There's the tension plate that we talked about in our last video. You want to make sure that when you thread your machine here, that it does feel like there's a little bit of tension. If not, you don't have it latched correctly. You probably made connection somewhere else on whatever mechanism you're trying to get around, but it's just too loose and you could probably just pull off your thread. In this case, you want to catch that thing and be able to pull on it, and it's not going anywhere. Okay, pull that thread. And then we're going to come over here to our bobbin winder. This piece here moves to the right and to the left on all machines. This one here too. Okay, there's another peg right here that tells your bobbin when to stop. So when your bobbin is full of thread, it starts slowing down right about here because there's too much friction. It kind of gives you a good indicator on when to stop threading your bobbin. We're going to take your bobbin and place it on that peg. You can see there's like a little lever right here. It's just a little a metal piece that kind of moves in and out, and when you slide your bobbin onto it, it kind of connects and latches so it doesn't go anywhere. Now there's 2 methods for threading your bobbin. There's no wrong way or right way, so I'm going to show you both. There's what I call the Mel method. That's my method. I feel like these holes are here to serve a purpose, and so I'm going to use them. I'm going to thread my bobbin from the inside, come underneath the top part of the bobbin, and then thread it through the top. I'm going to place my bobbin on the mechanism and just hold that nice and tight. Push it to the right, and then I'm going to turn on my machine, and then I'm going to use the foot pedal, a gas pedal of sorts. I'm going to push it. Now the trick to this, no matter which way, I'm going to show you another way, but the trick, I'm going to mention it now so I don't forget, is to keep consistency with your pedal pressure. Kind of like driving a car. You don't want to go fast and then slow. You want to keep a consistent pace. And the reason is you want to have a nice, even bobbin. There we go. Nice, even bobbin. You see there are no loops, no tugs, no unevenness. There's not a pyramid of sorts. Nice and even throughout. Okay, so that's the Mel method. You want to hold on to this thread for a good while after you wind your machine starts winding your bobbin. And that's just so you're helping your machine out so that this thread, as soon as this thing starts spinning, and you'll see here in a minute, it's going to go really fast, doesn't fall out, and then you have no thread being wound. So in this method, you see a lot of people doing this. I don't like doing it because I forget which way to thread it, but you just come around and wind it a few times. Same thing, you put the bobbin on, and then you still need to hold this thread really tight. So I'm going to keep up with doing it like this since I'm already here. And then here in a moment, I'm going to turn on my machine. And then, I've got something rigged up, so ignore this here. Okay, there's going to be some movement there. I'm going to get this off camera to not confuse you. But that shouldn't be moving. I did that on purpose. I have a thing going on. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Sometimes you have to also, like in this case, this machine, this is where I'm not going to adjust it. I actually like the way it is. But I also tell my machine that I'm going to be making a bobbin. And so I'll turn this knob until it becomes loose. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to pop out. I'm going to turn it on the flywheel so it becomes loose. It just tells my machine not to disengage the shank over here, meaning disengage the motor from it so that it's not moving up and down. In this case, I've left it like that, and then I'm going to push my bobbin winder to the right. That tells your machine that you are now engaging your bobbin winder. Go ahead and keep a consistent pace. I'm only going to load my bobbin to a certain capacity just for demonstration purposes, and then I'm going to show you this bobbin again. Go ahead. So in this case, my bobbin's not winding. No big deal. I'm going to use the Mel method because I know that works. It's what I'm good at. Okay, pull it nice and tight so you see that there's still some tension throughout here. Hold on to my thread. Okay, so part of my thread broke off, and that's that top thread. You don't need it anyway, no big deal. I even want to show you guys something. Now when we're done winding our bobbin, at some point, if your bobbin becomes full again, this mechanism is going to slow down your machine and tell you when to take your foot off the presser. Some machines have automatic winders. If yours does that, it's a whole other class about automatic machines, but every machine has a way to manually wind your bobbin. If yours does it automatically, there is still some manual work that you need to do in order to load your bobbin with thread, and so we'll go over any more detailed questions. Just drop me a line if you have any questions about that. Now what we're going to do is take your bobbin off of the winder and just cut the thread. All right. This is the thread that your machine's going to hold on to. Any excess thread really needs to be cut off at the top, so it is nice and clean at the top and prevents any future jams. This is a really good example of a bobbin that is nice and free of any kind of thread debris at the top. And this is not that minor, but if it's really long, it's going to get all caught up in your machine. So just remember to keep it nice and tidy, nice and clean. You have a nice healthy bobbin here. Okay, now that we have that done, we're going to look at both machine types at the same time. Now, for top loading machines, your bobbin is going to be located here at the top of your machine. You're going to press the button that releases that clear pane. Pull out your bobbin if there's already one in there. And in this case, your bobbin is located in the front of your machine behind your toolkit. Inside of the bobbin housing, it's a metal piece with like a little door. you are going to load in both cases your bobbin with the thread going to the right. So if we were to lay this down flat, it would be going to the right. And then we're going to do this one at a time here, just to give you a good idea of what we're doing, because both machines are a little bit different. Pull your thread counterclockwise until you find that notch and that plate on the top of your machine, or excuse me, housing. It will almost automatically find itself. And then pull this to the left until your thread to the left until your thread latches underneath this platelet here. Again, this all has to do with tension. There's screws on here and such. Leave those alone. Follow that through until it catches. Put it back in its bobbin housing. See how there's like a peg here? You'll find a groove in the machine. You just kind of jostle it around until you find it. Great. Close that door. That's okay that your thread's hanging out here. Same thing with this one here. You're going to load your bobbin. So the thread's going to the right, and there is a groove here on the top of your machine. You're going to follow your plate until it finds its groove. I missed it here. There it is. I found the groove. There's like a little notch right here that it caught. Follow it through. Put that platelet on. That's all good. And now we are ready to catch our thread. I'm going to put this actually I'm going to leave that there for demonstration purposes. I need to thread my machine really quickly to show this. You're going to need to thread your top machine as well. We went over that in video number 2. You should always have 2 threads when sewing. I'm going to thread my top thread. Now, if you have an automatic threader, which most machines do, like have some kind of a feature, if it's not an automatic threading feature, then it has a lever over here. We'll discuss that later. I just really wanted to make sure that you know how to manually thread your machine. In any case, I threaded my top thread. Now that our bobbins are inside of their houses, their bobbin casings and housings, we are going to take our flywheel that's off to the right of your machine. Hold this thread with your left hand. Take your right hand on the flywheel. There we go. And turn your flywheel until your needle goes inside of your machine. Keep turning it towards you. It's going to come back up. And as you're pulling your thread, you hold this kind of tight. As you're pulling your thread, it's going to catch. It's like catching a fish. And we just caught our thread. You might need a little bit of assistance here by getting a pair of scissors or a little, some tweezers or something, and pulling that thread out from the bobbin plate there. And now, voila, you have 2 threads. You're going to do the same thing on this machine here. You're going to turn your flywheel, get that needle inside of the machine, keep holding that thread taut, and as you do, it's going to catch the other thread just like a hook, just like you're catching a fish. Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, and you will have caught your bobbin thread. Pull those threads over to the right, keep things nice and tidy. Put your toolboxes back on your machine, start your machine, and you are ready to sew. Thanks for watching.